Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Y and E podcast. Thank you for joining us. And if you haven't subscribed, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, share, and get with us in the comments section. So we're chatting about a video that's been going viral on X. It's a video about a man that took a loan of £75,000 in the UK and took that money to Nigeria to invest. And a year and a few days after his business started running, it appears that the government, Nigerian government in Abuja, decided to maybe confirm the actual owner of those properties. And it looks like they weren't happy with who owns the property or who developed the property. At the end of the day, he lost out his investment, he lost his money. In that building, it was reported that there were over 300 employees that lost their job because of the building demolition that happened. And a lot of people were crying about it and just saying there's no way to recover and things like that. And it's just heartbreaking coming from someone outside of Nigeria looking to go back to Nigeria to invest. I think it's heartbreaking, but again, it's part of doing business. They're gonna write it off as a loss, but you're still gonna be responsible for that loan. And that is why it's very important to be careful where you invest. I know a lot of people want to go back to Nigeria and invest, but you got to think about the downside. When you think about the upside before you move forward, think about the downside. We've heard stories of naira devaluation and people bringing money from abroad losing the money into exchange rates and they're not able to recover. I recently heard a story of a brother that took $100,000 to Nigeria to invest. And by the time he was able to pull out the money, he was only able to recover $65,000. He already lost about $35,000 to exchange rate and other economic situations in Nigeria. And the government continues to encourage people to come in and invest, encourage investors to come into the country. But when your economy is unstable, when you're not able to protect the investments, you're not able to guarantee their security, no one is going to bring their money to invest in the country. I'm sure this video will deter some other investors from coming into the country and putting in their money. And it's just unfortunate. And I think the government needs to do better. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you that the government needs to definitely do better with their, with their this thing, with their economic policies, and not just economic policies. I think we need to have a rules, we need to have a rules and regulation. Our laws needs to work. Our institutions needs to work. I think Nigeria should be getting past the stage where a president will just, although we see it happen, in most countries around the world, especially in the United States, where the president is able to control the market. Depending on how he woke up from the bed, he can influence the market positively or negatively. But I don't think Nigeria is there yet. I think Nigeria as an emerging economy, as a developing economy, I think there is need for there to be like a serious monetary policy, serious government policies, especially to encourage people in the diaspora and to even encourage foreign direct investments from not just Nigerians in diaspora, but from people from all over the world that wants to invest in the country. It would be very unfortunate that you bring in money in a foreign currency, let's say in dollars and pounds or euro, and at the end of the day, you are not able to, to make your money back. In fact, I have an example like that. I think it was around the 2014, bought this land. I think that the land I spent a total of almost a 3 million to buy it. But the dollar equivalent that I spent at that time, probably close to $10,000 at that time. But I'm telling you that today, the money they are pricing the land, if I sell it, it will probably not be up to $8,000 if I want to bring the money back. So it doesn't make sense. But for that guy, that brought £75,000 from the UK to invest, I think, with all due respect, I think what he did doesn't demonstrate a big, good business acumen. It does show that he's not a very good business person. I can't see myself doing it, borrowing 75,000 to come and invest in Nigeria that, the economy is not stable. The currency is not stable. The government policies are not stable. Anything can happen to your money, especially buying a landed property in Lagos or in Abuja, somebody can wake up and then, your house that you spent so many years to build, somebody will bring it, turn it to rubble, and nothing will happen. No compensation will be paid. I don't think insurance work in Nigeria. And nothing. In fact, in most cases, you probably not get any explanation as to why your house was brought down. We see a lot of cases like that on the social media where, houses that was completed, people already moved in into the houses, and then they bring them down to the rubble overnight. And those are people's sweat, and I believe that they don't get compensation. So I think it will be it will not be I think it will only be a foolish or stupid person that would do that. I know a lot of people in in Europe, especially Italy and then this UK. I think a lot of people in this America, they have been doing it too. They take out a huge amount of loan to go and buy, invest in real estate in Nigeria. Hopefully, God will help them to recover their money, but I don't think it's a very good business decision. I think. For me, I would rather invest here than take my money back to Nigeria that is unstable. And if care is not taken, people will swindle you. People will take your money and then they will sell you trouble their properties, and then you end up with litigation, and then before you know it, you'll be stressed out, and then you'll be forced to leave, whatever that is left of that investment. So I wouldn't, it's not like this is not me demarketing the country, the Nigeria, but a lot of things are not in place for that kind of, for that kind of investment.
Yes, I agree with some of the things you say. And one thing I want to add is we should not encourage people to not go out there and invest their money, right? We should still encourage people to go out and invest their money, but with the caveat and with the understanding that they can lose that money. It's a business, right? Business can go sideways. Whatever you do can go sideways. They just got to understand the risk. And at the same time, borrowing money to go invest in an unstable economy, stable financial environment is definitely unwise. Whoever's doing it should probably have a rethink before they go all in and before they get themselves into any kind of trouble. Because we know that things can change in heartbeats. I was listening to somebody describing Nigeria as you can be wealthy today and you can be down tomorrow. It's things are very unstable. But at the same time, my advice is if you want to invest, make sure it's money that you don't need in the next 2 to 5 years, and then just keep it over there, right? Don't even worry about bringing it back. Just keep it over there and let the money continue to accumulate or continue to attract interest. But if you're planning on bringing back the money abroad or taking it to wherever country you reside in, that is where you're going to get bit. I think it makes sense if you want to invest, take some money that you're not using. Definitely don't take a loan. Don't take a loan in dollars. Don't take a loan in pounds, especially if you know that your money is not stable. And if you need advice, I'll say go to Dangote. He's taking loans from multiple countries. He knows how to navigate the waters of all these unstable monetary policies. I'm sure you still get bitten sometimes too, because I think during the last issue with the dollar, it was saying that they pay interest in dollars, and if they're not making money, they continue to pay interest. So he's a businessman. I'm sure he has a lot of collaterals for his loans that he takes from banks or other banks trust his business acumen and they give him money. But for you starting small, and that is one reason that I'm saying that most banks do not lend to new business owners, right? If you're starting out your business, the banks will really lend to you because they know that they run the risk of losing their money because most businesses will collapse within a year to 2 years of the start of the business. So if you want to take a loan here as a business, they say they want you to, most banks will want you to be in business for at least 3 years, right? You want to show your tax return, business tax return saying, hey, this business is good, it's making money, and you're guaranteeing the loan that, hey, it's not going to default. Because banks are in there to make money. They don't want you to put your money into where they're not going to get their money back, right? That's why they want you to personally guarantee the loan. But for big businesses, I'm sure they have a way of navigating waters. But again, if it's the money you're not using in the next 2 to 5 years, just take it to Nigeria and use it to develop and employ people and create jobs. I think it's a good idea. But taking a loan as a small business, medium business, you're not a big business like Dangote or other multinational, I think it's a bad idea and it should not be done.
I agree with you, but you really have to be the level of Femi Otedola to be able to say you are going to consult with Dangote to figure out how he's able to, how he's navigating, navigating that water of a Nigerian economy. So you really have to at least be very close to his level, or maybe exactly his level or past his level for him to even give you audience, because there is no way you'll be doing your business is worth like $100 million, and then you'll be able to have audience with Dangote. I highly doubt. I highly doubt. So
You know what? You can start selling a course on how to meet business people, even though you haven't met them. That's a way to make money online. Sell courses on how to meet
yep,
billionaires and
if you can
it's
package it,
great.
if you can package it, there are stupid people that will buy it. I promise you, there are stupid people online that will buy it. If you can package it very well, and then buy like three custom suits, go live in Miami for like 2 weeks, take a picture, take videos, and I promise you, you will be able to sell it to some stupid people. So but what I'm trying to say is that Nigeria economy, not just that is unstable. Nigerian president looks like a king, and the way they move, the way they do things, doesn't even, you know, doesn't even portray confidence. You see the way they borrow money, you see the way they lavish money. It tells you everything you need to know about the economy. And can you imagine the day that Tinubu was running, that he said fuel subsidy is gone? Dollar rose from about 400 naira to almost a 1,000. It got to almost a 1,008. Can you imagine how many people that brought in money from foreign, that brought in dollars prior to that to do business? How much they lost from that money they brought in? A lot of people will be knocked out of business. So I'm not saying Nigeria is at the level of America, but I think they should incrementally strive to do better, especially with their monetary policies, and with the way they do things. Nigerian president is just too powerful. They can wake up, make a pronouncement, and even somebody like Dangote can go under in a week in Nigeria if care is not taken. That is why you see him very close to the government. Any government in power, he's always very close to them because he don't want them to wreck his business. In fact, recently he came out to endorse Tinubu because if he don't want his business, he don't want them to wreck his business. So it's a very difficult environment. But for me, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a business person. I don't own any business. But I wouldn't recommend anybody to go borrow money from here to go and invest in Nigeria. I think it's probably the worst thing that anybody can do. But this is just me. Maybe I'm just being too safe, playing too safe, or being too emotional. But if it is my money, I could do that. If it going to the bank, approaching a bank, borrowing $100,000 to go and invest in Nigeria, I wouldn't do that. Especially in Lagos and Abuja, where we have Emperor Wike in Abuja, and we have Omonide in Lagos. No, I wouldn't advise anybody to do that. It's just too risky for me to. It's just too much of a risk for me to take. Well, we are all different. So some people are able to take that risk, but for me, I think that is too much of a risk to take. Let us know what you think. Would you borrow money from here, or have you borrowed money from here to Nigeria to invest? Let us know your experience, and we'll be happy to engage between the comment section.